Well, good morning, everybody. I'm going to start off again today talking about snow, right? We just had a historic snowfall event that hit the Northeast. As Matt brought up the latest maps yesterday, you saw some places in the Northeast picked up well over 30 inches of snow. And the ripple effect is still ongoing. I'm in Fargo this morning for a couple events here today before heading down to Commodity Classic. And last night out of Chicago, my flight was delayed 6 hours because crew was not able to kind of get around. And eventually they canceled that. Thankfully, I was able to get another flight, made it over to Fargo. But it's a ripple effect across the country. But I'm more interested in the ripple effect of winter snow going into spring. And I just labeled a couple of things here that I'm thinking a lot about. One, we do not have snow really on a lot of the Missouri Basin. Yes, there's some up here in North Dakota where I'm in Fargo. I mean, it's pretty cold this morning. We've got some big snows on the ground here. But look at the headwaters of the Mississippi. I mean, I've labeled it 6 to 15 inches of snow in places here in parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the UP of Michigan. And as you know now, the largest snowpack in years out in the Northeast just following the big snowstorm that went through there. We've discussed at length what's going on out west, and while the Rockies are in places needing quite a bit more snow, the Northern Rockies doing okay, the Northern Cascades okay. I need more in the Southern Cascades, but the Sierra Nevada are just set so far this year. But if you want to have a look at this in terms of percent of normal, it just kind of highlights a few things. This is one big area that has just not seen its typical snowfall. And while we saw the big, January 24th, 25th event go through here, a lot of lake effect this year on all those clippers that came through. And what was that, three weekends ago, the big snow that got into parts of the Carolinas, hitting that region. Yeah, the map's got a few spots that are showing much above average snowfall in the year. But my brain is just thinking through the water in this. So when we look at the water year today, so this begins on October the 1st, I'm just trying to illustrate across the country why we've seen such growth over the winter in terms of drought area. We're now back up to 74%. Of course, that was where we were last October, and a little bit of a drop off in November, December, but it just climbed back up in January now into February. And the deficits are incredible. And here's the question. Is anything coming along this spring to kind of work against this? Because the soil moisture problems are still prevalent as well. I covered every video that I do because I'm just thinking about how this gets us into spring. Well, you've probably seen, and a lot of meteorologists are talking, and so are Matt and Andrew and I, about this upcoming pattern. It is definitely going drier for California. We can see some more precipitation throughout parts of the Great Basin area here, but look at this. I mean, this is not just in the European model for the next 2 weeks. It's in the GFS as well. I mean, they've got the same features. Look at this, the same features in the models. And a lot of this is coming to an area that's extremely dry in through here. Now, you take note of this, and you're going to see that in these forecasts, these areas farther to the north are not expected to pick up the precipitation, and we have to look closely at what's going on there. But even the Climate Prediction Center yesterday said, hey, we've got to watch out March 4 through March 8 for some significant risk, I would say, over the risk of very heavy precipitation. So what's going on? Here it is, okay? This is the flow today going through the end of this week, Thursday into Friday. And we've got this lingering low off the coast, but the flow is really just zonal for the most part here, right? I mean, there's not a whole lot going on. But as we play through the weekend into early next week, we're keeping an eye on this low coming into California. And then eventually it shows up somewhere here in Texas. I'm already out to next Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. But the question is, are the models right in developing this? Big Southeast Ridge, trough developing itself here in the midsection of the country, the Pacific High sliding farther off to the west. And if you get that, and it's March, you're going to set up, this kind of classic, Rocky Mountain ejecting low setup. And if they are slow enough, if the high pressure downstream is large enough, we feed them with moisture farther and farther back into some of our drier parts of the southern plains. Unfortunately, I don't think this cures the northern plains issue. I just don't. But there's multiple layers to this pattern getting this way by the time we get into March. And the first one has to do with momentum. Okay, so this is Earth relative atmospheric angular momentum, and you can compare it to average. And you want to talk about, and Matt would just mention this, he talked a lot about yesterday about this developing El Nino. Look at the drop off of momentum in the tropics and subtropics. Sorry, I should have drawn that arrow farther down here. 20 to 30 degrees north latitude. It is very low. And that's what happens when you have a La Nina. The momentum is high. When you go to El Nino, it tends to go lower here. And that's one of the pieces. And that's a spring, early summer type feature. But farther into the northerly latitudes, we're beginning to pick it up. And I'm going to show you a couple of things. I'm just going to click on this map. And this is what our last 120 days has looked like in terms of momentum. So look, back in November when the La Nina was building, it came up. Of course, we dropped a little in December, but closer to average. This is what we're dealing with right now. See that drop off there? Now, to make some sense out of that, I can come down and show you this forecast. Now, this is using, it's just a, it's a little bit of an outdated model, but it's still useful. Please don't get me wrong. And it is showing increased momentum amounts as we go into the month of March. And you increase the momentum. You're going, what does that even mean? You increase the momentum in the atmosphere, specifically coming across the Pacific or the Atlantic. And we just start to kick off more storm systems. The flow becomes more zonal. The flow resists meridional north-south, and it just gets going. And our global wind oscillation, look at that, coming out of the basement and now expected to move up through, phases 4 and 5 and 6. And this global wind oscillation coming above this line means more circumglobal troughs than ridges. Now, I do need to thank the guy who makes these maps. His name is Victor Cassini. He's a friend of mine. He was a professor up at Northern Illinois University. You can go look at his website. He's an expert in studying these things, and I appreciate the fact that he makes these sites available to us on his website up there at Northern Illinois University. But through all of that, the question is, are the analogs going to be right? Now, we are still questioning the California when you put all these years together, which had dying La Ninas in winter and building El Ninos in summer. But the question was, March, this is just March, were we drier here and drier south, but lit this whole area up in between? Because that seems to be the way that some of the models are taking it. Now, you'll notice in the new European model outlook, which looks just like the GFS, they are drier in California. That is not what we're seeing in the analogs. But there's moisture here, which is desperately needed. And look at that. This is talking about a very active March. And this gets all the way back into Texas. This gets into Kansas. In fact, even Nebraska is not on the dry side of this. I'm concerned here. But holy cow, it's just going to just start kicking off lots and lots and lots of storms. Now, interestingly enough, if you look back, I did this, to every March into April from 2010 to 2025, all of them, there's kind of a cadence to this. We tended to be drier here and wetter and stormier in the Delta. So this is kind of like a trend analysis from 2010 to 2025, comparing it to the 1991 to 2020 average. See what we're doing here? We're saying, what about these last 15 years has been similar or dissimilar? And what's going on here is that we've seen a whole lot more of this. Drier mid-Atlantic, drier on either side, but just ripping storm systems in between. Interestingly enough, when you get into May, we have seen the plains light up with quite a bit of storms quite often. Same thing with the southeast up the mid-Atlantic. See how we're flipping this? Now we're drier a bit in here. And I'm just showing you this because what have we talked about? Man, I'm so worried about the drought that's going into this area. I can't stop talking about big dust storms. We saw the fires a week ago. We've seen, just areas missed for months on end. And now we're seeing, the historical numbers doing this for March into April, and then this into April to May, and the models are doing that for March. And by the way, when we start to see this crank up, Victor's got another great page where he looks at subseasonal severe weather forecasting. And already into week 2 and week 3, there seems to be this increased risk of severe storms coming out of the south, which means we're waking up the atmosphere. It's about to do what I call my favorite trick that it does, and that is the overturning of the atmosphere as heat returns in the northern hemisphere. This is why we call it the troposphere. Tropos meaning overturning, unstable bubbles, and it's going to go. And we're just about there. We're about into severe weather season. All right, so that's what the talk is going to be as we go forward in these forecasts. Now, just to give you a quick update on this, where are we so far in our severe weather season? We've got a few of the little outbreaks that I call them little because we're going into the time when these get big, but I've just labeled a few of these areas for you. And I'm just going to say, I think we're going to have to start paying a whole lot more attention to this region as we progress further into this month of March and into April. And then in May, we need to know, this is going to be so critical, do the storms back up as they have been for many of the last 15 years and beyond? I mean, May is the severe storm time frame in here. That is traditional Tornado Alley, which is supposed to light up in May. If it fails and this area goes drier and that severe weather is in the Delta and the southeast, yes, then the drought narrative carries. But if it doesn't, we could watch in March, April, May that could completely transform the landscape of where we are right now on moisture. That's what the story's going to be, okay? So let's watch it together as time goes on. Here's the neat thing about what's going on in the atmosphere. I mentioned with the increase in momentum, you get more circumglobal troughs. Well, there's one massive one, and there's another. And this is interesting. For most of the next 15 days, look at that zonal flow through here. But this is what's critical. Temperature change is coming. We're going to reorient the jet stream at times, and it could kick off some significant severe weather across the United States and also quite a bit of precipitation. So speaking of precipitation, here's just a quick look at this morning's radar. We got a little bit of snow moving north of Rapid City. We've got some rain pushing up against the Appalachian Mountains with snow at higher elevation. And yes, another little hit of snow going through parts of the Northeast. All right. But as we go forward in this forecast, it's going to be a wind discussion coming off the Rockies right now with red flag warnings in Colorado all the way down here toward this corner of New Mexico into Texas. Yet another cold morning down here in Florida. We've got the freeze warnings and watches in place. But there is some very mild air moving east with time, which we need to get in and talk about. First, I want to give you a quick update on these winds. Just let's play this out, because what you notice is that through the next 2.5 days, we're building a lot of very strong winds across the northern plains. So I will escape just before this comes in, but take a look at Texas. But the main show is going to be coming off the front range of the Rockies. We do have the risk of very, very strong winds, downslope winds, which we're used to in this area, but just want to remind you of what's coming into that area. Now, if we take a look at the high-res NAM and just kind of see where it's putting down precip, with all the winds coming to the northern plains, no extra precip, but there is this little clipper system. It's more just like a remnant front from this, on which precipitation is riding out a part of, South Dakota into Iowa. By the way, just for reference, this is tonight. It's going right across Iowa. This is like a 1 to 2 inch event, maybe coming in through here, maybe a little bit more. Comes over into Illinois and gets into southern Indiana and maybe southern Ohio. Meanwhile, better rains to the south of it. Kentucky, Tennessee, getting in toward the Appalachian Mountains in North Carolina as well. So that just gets us through tonight. As we plan to tomorrow morning, that rain spreads into parts of Virginia, some snow in West Virginia. As you see on the high-res now, a little clipper goes over the top of the Great Lakes into Ontario, and then that's kind of the mainstay of it. That's what we're watching just through the middle of this week, or to the end of this week, forgive me. It is the middle of the week. Now, bigger picture, I'm going to take you to two different models this morning, European first, all right? Now, as we play this forward, you're going to see the same event. See it coming right through here. You're going to see what happens down south. There we go. Now, watch. After this, as we go forward, there's the clipper that goes through. Look up in Ontario, okay? Into Quebec, there's the clipper. We have some more light snow that spreads from Montana through the Dakotas into parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin. See it right there? Maybe hitting Chicago. This is by Sunday. And that's all just on the southern edge of this high pressure cell. That's how it's going on. Just squeezing the atmosphere, getting a little bit of snow out of it, okay? As we play this forward, though, into Monday, March 1st, March 2nd, look at the system the models continue to build here. And what's interesting is there is a trough of low pressure, but this is mainly just fed off of the high. So the high is what's undercutting all of the colder air. And there's just, way offshore, there's also high pressure and it's feeding. So this is another setup where you just go rain, freezing rain, snow, right? That's the sandwiching in the atmosphere we're going to have to watch out for during that time frame. So that's more snow across like I-74, more ice on I-70, and then south of it, rain. This then spreads east on Monday, gets over into the mid-Atlantic. Matt showed it yesterday. By the time we get out there to Monday night into Tuesday, and then watch this. Here we go. March 3rd, system comes out right in the middle part of the country. Look at that front just lingering. Now, this is the key. That high pressure cell is forcing this low east. The low is here, and it just leaves a frontal boundary like that. Now, you watch where the high pressure goes. See it slide east here? Look at this. And then it sits right over the mid-Atlantic. Now, what's the significance? There's flow around this, and that is what's slowing things down, opening the Gulf. Again, March 4th, 5th. Look at this. There's the 6th, 7th, 8th. Did you see it? I mean, that was multiple days of moisture coming through this area. And I didn't have to talk too much about what's going on in the west. Yeah, maybe out there March 8th, we have something coming through, but it's all going to be concentrated here thanks to that high. Now, that's one model. What about the GFS? Does it have something similar? Well, let's play quickly. Okay, it's got the little snowfall event coming through here. There it is going out the mid-Atlantic. That's just through Thursday into Friday. Okay, similar. Now we're looking for the Montana through South Dakota into Iowa skiff of snow. This is this Saturday. It's not really there in the GFS, but it tries to push more snow to the northeast. Now here you go. This is Sunday into Monday. Look at that event taking shape there. Now, what I'm curious about is this. There it is. Look. March 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. See them? Look at that. That's even out there to the 9th. It is trying to just rip out that precip. Now, I seem to favor the European more on the snowfall forecast. So let's go have a look at it. There's the little 1 to 2 dusting thing I mentioned right here coming through. Let's take a look. All right. We're out there now to Sunday, March 1st. Okay, maybe. Remember how we saw the sandwiching there on March 1st, 2nd? More snow in the northeast. I don't care. Let's just go out a little beyond 10 days. Now, total precip is what I'm interested in. So here's the European model forecast of total liquid equivalent. All right, there's the system coming through late week. Tennessee, North Carolina. Man, we need this. We need this moisture bad. Okay, let's keep going. Here we are. Ready? This is Saturday into Sunday. Tuesday next week, Wednesday, Thursday. Look at the South. Holy cow. We're going from like famine to feast here. And some of these rainfall amounts are off the charts in the model. I got a buddy down there, Dallas. Okay, he lives in Oklahoma. I love it. Hey, man, I've got right now in the European model for you near Lawton, 7.68 inches. I mean, there's just potential. That's all that I'm sharing out of this. Let's look at it another way, probability. Now, through the next 10 days, the European ensembles are more aggressive on these areas being wetter, and it's keeping this very dry, which we saw. We were not getting systems in that area. That's the probability of staying under a half inch. So I just want to show you that the ensembles down here are not as aggressive, but if we step this up to who's going to be over an inch, can you now see how it's trying to bring those probabilities farther back? And if I add more time onto this, getting you fully into that week 2 time frame, I'll just show you all of it, week 2. These are the probabilities of an inch. That's the chance of 2 inches. Look at the Ohio Valley here, Missouri Valley, Mississippi. I mean, this whole area's got a better than 80% chance of 2 inches and even 4. So I come back to this and say we may, if we warm up, see massive changes in this just here in early March. And that's what we got going on here, all right? What about snow? Well, our heaviest snows are going to run right through this corridor here, but be prepared that into the northeast we could see snow. The wild card is going to be the snow that's coming through here. So you saw the little event coming through today. We then saw the event that follows it right in through this area. Just saying there's some chances. But I do love seeing this. We need to put more snow into the Rockies given what the conditions look like there across those basins, which we've looked at in several of the videos lately. All right, another way to see this. All of the week 2 models, the CPC, the European, the AI, and the GFS, all have that event. And the question is going to be for me, do we fill in more of this area? That's what the struggle is going to be, I think, in the forecast. Now, with the positioning of that high pressure farther to the east, it's going to change these temperatures in a big way. I'm at -5 this morning here, but we've already got 60s down into Texas early this morning. There's our cold down in Florida prompting those warnings, and then we can see the feedback of the snow in the northeast. But take a look at this temperature pattern. Ready? Here's today's highs getting to tomorrow, Friday. We're back up 73 Kansas City. I mean, Quincy 67. Very, very warm conditions in midsection of the country. Sorry, I jumped it forward there. Then, as you know, with the next system coming through, that Saturday into Sunday, that's what gives us our chances to get cold enough to get snow later. This is now Sunday into Monday, presses into the northeast. Again, that's our next snow chance there. Then Tuesday, Wednesday, we just start to see a rebound. And if I show you it on the ensembles, look at this. That's your next 5 days. Look at day 5 through 10. And then ready for this? Day 10 through 15. Full on spring. So New York, northeast, you're going to have some flooding problems melting all that snow. But it's going to happen. Very, very warm conditions beginning to build in here. And the models keep it around. Ready? Sorry, I jumped way too far ahead. Look at this. This is your next week, next 7 days. Let's play this out there to week 2. Now let's go out there to week 3. So that would be March 11th through the 18th. Let's go into week 4. Now, all of the models are doing this. They're trying to drop cold air back in to start April. See it? End of March, start April. And I could make a case for it. I really could. I could say, oh yeah, this is likely happening. But I would be very speculative at this point. But you've seen the monthly precip. You've now seen the monthly temperatures. We've got some major buildup of warmth happening east. And some of this is a feedback issue in the model in the west. Okay, feedback with snow. All right, spring break. I don't know if you want to think of it that way. Look at this. I think we're getting a lot of folks scratching dirt going if this moisture comes through. I really do. Just the question is, do we get an early window to get a lot of that field work done? That's what I'm going to be concerned about. Okay, last thing, South America. No story change here. We're very wet. Brazil's east into the center west going forward, so this could affect safrinha planting, the rest of harvest. And then if you come down into southern Brazil into parts of Argentina, the models continue to be very dry here. And we're just going to see where this might go. In fact, let's do something real quick just for a moment here. Take you to Weather Bell. I use this website a lot. Go to the weeklies, but let's go to South America. Let's look at precipitation for March. Oops, sorry, I went a little too far there. That is their full March outlook. So it's very similar. Very wet through these growing areas, drier farther to the south. Question is, do we revive moisture late in the season for some of Argentina's growing areas? The models are picking up on it. But I'll be honest with you, I've just been so much more focused on what could be happening. In the midsection of the country. Somewhere in here I have those maps. Yeah, here. Are we going to get a typical March to April in the Delta Mid-South area? Watch out for severe weather in that region if this does take shape. Okay, that's it. I'll talk to you on Friday. Matt will pick it up again tomorrow. And for those of you coming out of Commodity Classic, I'll see you on Thursday. Take care, everybody.